Welcome to Miles of Books, a book-centric show to take along on your run from Another Mother Runner and Feisty Media. I'm your host, Sarah Bowen Shea, with co-host Coach Liz Waterstraat. Hello, Liz, and happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Yes. I now remember because you shared the same birthday as my twins who turned 21 yesterday.
Oh, that's exciting.
Very exciting. Yes. Yes. All right. So we're doing things a little differently on this episode. We're going to be talking, or I should say you are going to be talking about 4 books instead of your usual 1. So tell us why that is, Liz.
I think I've hit a dry spell about, is that the proper term? A dry
Yes.
spell? A rough
Yes.
patch?
Uh-huh.
As far as consumption of nonfiction books. There's some coming up that I want to read that haven't been published yet. But I haven't read anything recently that I thought would really resonate with our audience. And so I just went back to the bookshelves and pulled off some books that I thought would really click, especially at this time of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the basket you put all 4 books in. So tell us how you chose these specific books.
Well, I chose these as what every athlete would need to break through for their late season races. So I picked 4 different books, and we'll get into those. But I thought, it was really important to highlight that late season races are just different. You've been training since January. In the winter, we all started this adventure. And I don't know about everyone else, but I feel like the novelty for me starts to wear off in April or May. And especially since I didn't have any races earlier in the year.
Uh-huh.
So now we're approaching almost the end of the season and the races are getting closer and closer. So I thought that it would be very appropriate to pick these 4 books. 3 of them we've talked about before on Miles of Books. And if you've heard of those episodes, you already know why these books are worth coming back to. They're all about the mental game. And I feel like the mental game is something that is not a one and done conversation.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And sometimes you
Yeah.
I have picked up a copy of Stan Beecham's Elite Minds, and I've read it at different points in my athletic journey, and it just hits differently. So I feel like maybe we talked about these in the past, but now we're at a different point, and so they're still worth revisiting. So
Can I say that as
Yeah.
a person who reads a lot of fiction, I have had that experience with Madame Bovary and Anna Karenina, rereading them, and same with Lolita. So I hear you on rereading a book and having it hit
Yeah.
differently. Yeah.
just a different mindset, different perspective that you're coming from in life.
Yeah.
But the 3 books that we're pulling back off the shelf would be Winning the Mental Game by Dr. Amber Selking,
Mhm.
Inner Excellence by Jim Murphy, and I've already mentioned Elite Minds by Dr. Stan Beecham. And then we're pairing those with a brand new one. This
Mhm.
one's entitled, Built to Finish by friend of the pod,
Mhm.
Theresa Seitz.
Mhm.
So we're especially excited to give this one its moment.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Excellent. And I want to quickly interject 2 things. One is that I'm considering having Theresa as a guest on the Another Mother Runner podcast to delve deeper into her story. So, folks, if that sounds intriguing, if you're intrigued by what Liz has to say about it, keep an eye out, keep an ear out. And then 2, as a runner, I was a little confused at first when you deemed a race in August to be a late season race. Then I remembered you're a triathlete. And so yet I think so much of what you're going to share is relatable to gals in the thick of training for a fall half marathon or marathon. So folks, don't tune out because you're like, well, I don't have a race in the next couple weeks. Like, this is, you all know Liz, she will make it resonate with where you are in life. So go ahead, Liz.
Well, that's really funny because in coach terms, I think of the year almost in quarters. And us triathletes, we've been racing since March. There are now 70.3s on the calendar in March. There's Ironmans in April. So
Wow. Okay.
when we start to get to this part of the season, it's definitely late season. Some people end their season in September, October. Well, I know that some of the biggest marathons, Chicago, New York, Monumental, all the big ones tend to happen in October, November. So this is for everyone. It doesn't matter. As long as you're racing like in this back half of the year, this will be for you.
Yeah.
But before we get into any of these books, I really want every athlete to hear one thing today. And that is that the mental barriers that keep athletes from fully competing are not sorted by pace. So you've got the woman who might be in the first corral and the woman in the last corral. They're often carrying the exact same weight in their mind, just different packaging. And one is afraid of not being good enough, and the other is afraid of not being fast enough. One is afraid of what happens if she doesn't win, and the other is afraid of what happens if she doesn't finish. So fear doesn't check your bib number or your past race results before it shows up. And neither does the work of learning to compete as your truest self. So this work that we're talking about today belongs to every athlete in this community. So the through line across all 4 of these books is that your body is probably ready. If you've done the training, you've checked the boxes on your training plan. And the question now is whether your mind is going to let you perform.
Yeah. Yeah. I love your line, and I think it bears repeating. I love this line. Fear doesn't check your bib number before it shows up. It's woo. So do you think there are any caliber, age, type of athlete for whom fear doesn't at least tap on the shoulder as they're standing there in that corral?
Maybe the complete beginner because they don't know what they don't know. And I think the complete beginner actually has their own set of fears, like fear of looking silly or fear of being last or fear of not finishing. But maybe those stakes are slightly lower than somebody who has the experience of knowing what a quote unquote good time is, or somebody who's there to qualify for a specific race or a specific time. But no, I think it's equal opportunity, if that makes sense. Fear will find you no matter how fast you are.
Okay. Tell us about these books and who they're for.
All right. So the first one, Winning the Mental Game by Dr. Amber Selking. So this one's for everyone. She holds a PhD in education and counseling psychology, and she served as a mental performance coach for Notre Dame football. Oh. So she has this thing called championship mindset training, and it's built around 8 mental plays that she goes through in the book. And those are awareness, motivation, confidence, intensity management, attentional control, emotional mastery, mental rehearsal, and routines. So I love this book because it has a framework. It's not just a bunch of ideas thrown into chapters. So This is like a guidebook. This is a book you sit down, you go through it, you do the little, like you write in this book. And I love that kind of stuff.
So you're saying it has like blank lines in the book?
My recollection is it does, yes.
Okay, so because I do know that you jot in the margins. You have marginalia in your books.
Marginalia?
That's a
I've
real
got
word.
a writing in my book problem, yeah.
Okay, tell us about Theresa's book.
Okay, Built to Finish. Theresa Seitz is the author. And this book is for, and this is her description, not necessarily mine, mid to back of the pack athletes. So Seitz is a 24-year Disney leader. She had spinal surgery she came back from. She was a first-time mother at 44, and she's a finisher of, listen to this, more than 50 marathons and multiple Ironmans. This woman's busy. But she is not the athlete gunning for the podium. She's the woman who crosses the finish line and commits to it. And so her book specifically lives in the middle miles, not the start, not the finish, but the place where motivation fades and the quiet voice gets loud. So that's where actually most races are won or lost. And I'm not talking about like crossing the finish line first. Your win might just be getting to that finish line.
Okay, and Inner Excellence by Jim Murphy.
Yeah, I think everyone's aware of this book. It's for the front of the pack athlete, I would say. So Murphy is a best-selling author. He was a former professional baseball player for the Cubs, and he's a performance coach to world champions and Olympians. And his book is shot from obscurity to #1 overnight, which we dug into in the podcast about it that we did, when NFL star A.J. Brown was caught. I love it. He was caught reading it on camera.
The scandal.
Imagine being caught reading a book these days. So he was reading it on the sidelines during a playoff game. So the central argument of this book is that the pursuit of extraordinary performance and the pursuit of an exceptional life are the same path. And that reframes what competing at a high level is actually for.
Okay, tell us about Dr. Stan Beecham's book.
Okay, this one's called Elite Mind. This is like one book. I've given this book away. I think it's that good. Yeah. So this is for any athlete, no matter where you are in the pack, but you're ready to take your mindset to the next level. So Beecham is a sports psychologist, and he's worked with Olympic and collegiate athletes. His central argument is direct, and it's actually a little uncomfortable. So he said that expectation dictates performance, not your desire, not your goals and hopes, but your expectations. So there's a difference between wanting to race well and expecting to. And he makes the case that the gap between those two things is where most athletes live and lose.
All right.
So, Sarah, just unloaded the bookshelf there for you for those books. So, and we broke them down in between books for everyone, books for the front of the pack, the mid to back of the pack, and the book for the person ready to take their mindset to the next level. So which book or category do you feel like you identify the most with right now?
Oh, identify the most with right now. I found your description of Elite Minds by Dr. Stan Beecham to be intriguing. So that one was the one that spoke to me, but I do love you saying that winning the mental game is really well organized into logical chunks, because that to me would be the way that I would want to digest one of these books. So, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. All right, it's time for words from our sponsors. Coach Liz will dive into these 4 books when we return. Stay with us. Okay, start with the book for every athlete.
So this is Winning the Mental Game by Dr. Amber Selking. This is the playbook. It's practical and it's actionable. So if that's your jam, you're going to love this book. I really liked what she called her play number 2, and it's motivation. Most of us have heard about knowing our why.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like every single one of these books talks about know your why. And I mean, and let me just say about your why, it doesn't matter what your why is. Your why doesn't have to be some big old. Your why could be, I once coached a guy. His why was because the girl at the bar told me I couldn't. And he was like 24 years old, and that got him up every single day to train for this darn Ironman. And he got to the finish line, and then he did a few more. So,
and then the question is, did he and the girl ever date, or
I don't know.
Is she now
Wouldn't
his
that be
wife?
funny? It could be his wife now. Anyway, so most of us have heard about this knowing our why, but Selking peels back the layers to explore the motivation beneath it. And she builds it around 3 questions. Okay. And the first is, why am I doing what I'm doing? The second is, what do I want to accomplish by doing this? And lastly, how do I want to be remembered when I am gone from this experience or this season of life? Powerful, right? Yeah. So she writes that checking in with those questions and not just asking them once, but returning to them over and over again is what actually keeps you in full alignment with your mission and your purpose. And so knowing what stands at the center of your why is what drives performance excellence. And it's on the low energy, off balance, just not feeling my mojo days when you want to be drawing on these the most. So you really want to have these set in stone before you even begin your training plan, right? So the other thing I wanted athletes to take away from Selking before their last season race is that she says that high performers give 100% of whatever they have to give. Okay? Really important point for every athlete to embrace. So this is not like 100% of all like 100% that you have. It is whatever you have on that day. And so excellence is just about that incremental growth and commitment over time, and not perfection, not being like all in all the time. And so what I wrote next to that passage was, you want to give the best of what you've got. And I think I say that on a daily basis to my athletes. When they tell me, oh, I didn't sleep well last night, or oh, it was like a heat index today. And I said, all that matters is you gave the best of what you had today in these conditions, how you showed up.
That is so important. The drive for perfection in our society just infuriates and boggles me, and just, I think people really get twisted by it.
I think some people don't even start because of it. They abandon the idea, they abandon the dream because they're worried that they won't be perfect enough, or they won't achieve it. So yeah, I'm not in favor of perfection.
Okay, next up is Theresa's book, which I have sitting on my desk. I suspect it'll speak to a wide swath of our listeners because I know it talks to me.
Yeah. She opens her book with one of the most honest things I've read about the start line experience. And she wrote that she has been at a lot of start lines, enough that people think she must be used to it and that the nerves must disappear after a certain number of races. And they don't. What changes is not the fear, it's what she does with it.
Mm.
So her whole central argument is that the problem is not fear. The problem is what we think fear requires of us. So we assume that confidence is supposed to be the thing that comes first. So the belief arrives fully formed before we even act. And she says that finishing does not start with confidence. It starts with willingness.
Oh.
Willingness to go while you're scared, to stay without guarantees, and to take the next step before you believe the whole story will work out.
I mean, that goes right back to what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
About perfectionism, that
Yeah.
doesn't all have to be baked into a beautiful cake, that, go when the batter's still being formed.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought her whole perspective on fear, I really like this perspective. It's one I've actually never heard before. And that is, she said fear is never creative. It just recycles. And it tells the same story in 100 different outfits. And so she said, you want to be smart. And fear is there and it's telling you, you're not ready, or maybe this is too much, or you don't want to embarrass yourself. And that's the trap, is that fear sounds really reasonable. Like fear is protecting you. And it always is going to pick the one thing you care about the most and attack you like right where you care the most about it. And you're the most numb. And she says, the bigger the goal, the louder that fear voice is going to be. And I would say that, even from my own coaching experience, the way Seitz talks about fear and Murphy in Inner Excellence talks about fear, and even Beecham in Elite Minds talks about fear, it's all the same fear, no matter what athlete we're speaking to. It's just wearing different clothes. So the back of the pack athlete is worried that she won't finish. And the front of the pack is worried, what if I don't win? Or, what if I don't hit the podium this time? So you have different outfits. It's the same fear voice. And knowing that it's fear and it's not the truth, it doesn't make it quiet. It just makes it survivable. So that feeling at the start line doesn't mean you don't belong. Like any pace athlete, whether we've got our gals walking the 15-minute miles, that's power walking, or the ones like running the 6-minute miles. If you are feeling that way, it's totally normal. It means you're awake. It means that you care. It means that you showed up and you're ready to take that risk.
So true. Yeah.
So Sarah, what does fear sound like for you at the start line? Like, does it have exact words that it use?
Yeah. It oftentimes says to me, I wish I wasn't here. I wish I didn't have to do this. Why did I sign up for this race? Like, why have I put myself in this situation?
Yeah. Mine usually says, you could be at home eating donuts right now. Like laying in bed, drinking coffee, slow Sunday morning. Or the other thing it says to me is, oh my gosh, the task ahead is going to be so hard. Like, I think about that all the time. Like, oh, this is going to be so hard.
It's going to be so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I put myself here.
Yeah, I chose this.
I chose this. I could have been at home just doing my thing. Yes. All right. So this next book, as you've established, is for folks who are further up in the starting corral, in the B or C corral, not in the second half of the alphabet.
Yeah, this book, I think, speaks well to the front of the pack athlete. This one's Inner Excellence by Jim Murphy. Like I said, this one had a reboot recently, but it was actually a recent interview with Murphy that made me think. And he said that he talked specifically about failure. And he said most people do not actually fear failure. They fear what failure means about them, that it's a hidden identity threat, and that it activates anxiety and overthinking and self-criticism. And he said that true confidence is not believing you will win. It's knowing you will be okay, even if you do not. So that's a really different place to race from. It's kind of knowing that, like, in the big picture, I tell athletes all the time, I'm like, in the big picture, nobody cares. Not like in a bad way, but only your mom cares. Only your mom after this race, assuming everyone has a mom. A loved one is going to reach out to you and care how it goes. Everybody else doesn't care. Like, they're so concerned about their own racing experience and their own self that they don't give you more than a split second thought about how you and your race did.
Exactly. And I have to say that hearing you say all this makes it resonate so much for me. I reading things just doesn't do the same thing for me. That now you saying that they fear what failure means about them. I suddenly was like, yes,
Yeah.
I remember that feeling, and
Mm-hmm.
particularly our concern if we've talked it up on social media.
Oh, yeah.
And then like thinking like, well, maybe nobody will ask me. And then, oh no, it gets posted or they ask on social media, something like that. It's like, oh, I didn't do well and now I got to talk about it. And, oh, they're going to see that I'm a poser or
Mm.
whatever it is. So, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think those feelings are totally normal. And even before the time of like social media as we know it, maybe 20 years ago, 17 years ago, I was a pro triathlete for a few seasons. And I remember in one of my first races, I went off course, like completely off course. And I had to tell them at the end of the race so they would disqualify me.
Oh my gosh.
Because I had ended up like cutting the course, something like that. Like the course wasn't well marked or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I've lost my way. So I remember thinking, and I had a blog at that time. I was like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think about me? And I was with a friend and he's like, Liz, like, come back down to earth. Nobody cares. Like nobody cares. And in fact, if anything, it makes you more human. I mean,
Right.
my husband to this day, he has gone off course more times than I can count. In his last race, I said, just whatever you do, just like follow the course. Find your way to the finish line this time. So it happens to everyone. We all fear the same thing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, Liz, I don't think we've quite called it overthinking yet, but you've kind of touched upon that that mental whirring that's going on, and overthinking in an athletic realm. So my pickleball pals and I, when we hit a certain kind of shot into the net, we often joke that, or we hit it out, that we had too much time to think about it. So what's the healthy mind balance between being prepared and assured and overthinking and overconfident?
So what I immediately go to in my mind is a quote by Paula Newby Fraser, who
Mm,
used to be known as the Queen of Kona. I think she won the Ironman World Championship many times. Maybe it was back in the 80s and 90s.
yep.
And she
Hmm.
has a quote that says, prepare for everything, expect anything.
Mm,
So there's that being prepared, like prepare yourself, go through all the what if scenarios, like prepare all the different ways this could go well.
uh-huh.
But at the same time, you can't be so overconfident. You have to also be willing to expect anything because anything can happen on race day. So I think if you kind of have the balance of both, then it's almost a healthy overthinking because you're
Okay.
preparing and you're thinking through different things in a healthy way.
Okay. All right. Okay. And let's turn to our last book then.
So this is my favorite. This is Elite Minds, Dr. Sam Beecham. I love this idea. And it's late in the book. And he says that every race should be like a liquidation sale. So I'm thinking of like the mattress store that's going out of business. And there's the giant posters in the window that say everything must go.
And the things at the curb,
Yeah. So if you're getting on a start line this weekend, just, picture the wavy guys. Everything must go. One of my friends actually owned one of those things because her father said, when I die, I want that at my funeral. And she saw one on like Craigslist or something, Facebook Marketplace. And she's like, I better pick that up.
Oh my gosh.
Anyhow.
And for people who can't see us, we are raising our hands there. What do you think those things are called? Like the enormous wind socks that are
like they're
vertical.
usually red, and it looks like this guy's like hair is on
It's on
fire.
and with big eyes, yes,
noodly arms.
Yes, and the air is being shot up from the bottom so that it kind of dances at a bizarre intervals. Yes, okay, so that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay,
so now that we have that visual, he says everything goes. So when the race is over, you should feel empty, like spent. You're done. There's nothing left except contentment. Because the only way to be fully satisfied after a race is to be empty. If you leave anything in reserve, you'll be haunted by the what ifs. What if I did this? What if what could have been? until you can race again. So he argues that this is a standard that most of us have actually never held ourselves to. Cross the finish line, still carrying something we didn't spend. And he says sometimes it's fitness, like we just couldn't access that extra level, but sometimes it's just permission. And the liquidation sale is not about pace. So the woman who's walking the last mile of her first half marathon, having left everything she had on the course, is more empty than the woman who ran a PR, but says, you know what, I should have started that push 5K earlier. So empty is not about speed. Empty is about honesty. And he also makes a reframe that changes the entire experience of a race. So he says the purpose of competition is to perform at our very best. And great competitors use the competition to help them get there. And he kind of dives into the definition of the word contest. So con means with, and test is the same root as testify. So he says, whenever we enter a contest, we make a promise, not only to ourselves, but everyone present, that we will do our best, that we promise not to quit when it gets difficult. We promise not to hold anything back. And people who don't make those promises are just making excuses out there. So he said, get really good at making and keeping your promises to yourself and every other competitor out there, so you won't have to make excuses.
Wow. I got to say that really, really hits home with me because empty the tank. That was my mantra for the 2009 Eugene Marathon here in Oregon. I had a very high level coach. Actually, it was Lynn Jennings, who was an Olympic bronze medalist. I wrote about it for Runner's World magazine. And that was utterly and completely my goal, was to cross that finish line with not a drop left in the tank. And it is, it's hard to parse that out. And so it ended up being my marathon PR. But my goodness, I stumbled across the finish line. Like I barely made it across the finish line. I mean, my friend Ellison, the other Miles of Books co-host, she was just a couple steps ahead of me, and she had to come back and kind of help me. And a race official came over to me and stuff like that. So I didn't literally feel great, but my gosh, I was so proud. I just remember crying tears of joy in the car ride home up I-5 with Lynn. I was like, I did it. I emptied the tank. And I'm getting chills now just remembering it. It was a fantastic feeling. But it's, it's scary, but also so thrilling and so fulfilling.
Yeah. There's no better feeling. And we all, if you've done more than one race, we all know that feeling of, I nailed it. And it's like you cross the finish line, you break into tears for no good reason. You have to lay down, or just that quiet feeling of, I did it. And that's it. And you'll know it. You'll know it when it happens. And if it hasn't happened yet, you need to give yourself permission to give a little more, because it's still in there waiting to come out.
Amen to that. Yeah. All right. It's time for another break. When we return, Liz will serve up the tools she pulled from across all 4 books. Okay, Liz, it's tool time.
Pulling out the toolbox. So these are for every athlete. Doesn't matter where you are in the pack. And so the first one was this realization that the thought comes before the emotion. So work backwards. So that's one's from Selking. And she said that when you feel the dread before a race, or anxiety during race week, or even panic in the middle miles, the instinct is always trying to manage and stuff the feeling. But she says the entry point is to actually go back to the thought that produced it. So tell yourself right before the anxiety that arrived, that's where the intervention happens. So not at the emotion level. You need to get underneath, like, what was the thought there that happened beforehand? So maybe the thought is, what will people think of me? Or what if I fail? And then you want to work backwards from there.
Yeah. That's a very good, and I would think maybe writing that might also help. That kind of journaling that might be useful.
I have 2 athletes, 3 actually, who write their race plan. Like everybody else types it out and they send me an email or something. I have 3 that hand write it and take pictures, and I love it. I think like they are the ones that it's the most locked in. So that whole writing before a race and journaling, it's really powerful stuff.
It is. Yeah.
Okay, the next tool is racing with and not against. So that goes back to what Beecham said, that great competitors are assisted and not inhibited by the competition. So when you see yourself going against the best, it could be the best in your age group, it could be the best in your neighborhood, whatever, it
Uh-huh.
should inspire us. And he said, set our souls on fire. And that those who fail to catch the tailwind of the competition do so because they think they're competing against each other. No. Great competitors understand the meaning of competing with each other. So think about that. Even with your best running friends, like when you go to the same race together, sometimes it's uncomfortable, right? You're like, oh, they're
Mhm.
my competition, or I don't
Uh-huh.
want to outdo them. You're just competing with each other and you're out there to make each other better. And your competition is not the obstacle. They are only showing you what is possible. So
Oh,
use
yeah.
them. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. And that goes in my mind, it takes me back to what I said, the fear that I have, what the voice that fear has in my head at the start line, but I always need to remember the voice in my head at the end of, "That was thrilling. I didn't think I could do that," or, "Wow, I still a little bit got it." Like, and just that fulfillment and wind beneath my wings. And pretty sure it was at the Hilton Head retreat that you were at when
Mhm.
I did the quarter marathon, so a little over 10K, and I just didn't know what to expect. And I want to say I came in, I don't know, maybe first in my age. I don't know. It was not a big
Me
race by
too.
any means, but I was walking on air after that race, and I had just forgotten how good that feels. And it's because of that there were people there who drew it out of me.
Mhm.
There's something magical that happens on a
Yeah.
race course with other people there.
Yeah. And that leads into our next tool, to give yourself permission to fully compete, whatever that means to you. And, Beecham writes that there are two primary drivers to win, and one is healthy and one is destructive. And he said most people want to win to feel better about themselves and to prove that they are like okay or good enough or worth it. But he brought up the example of Billie Jean King, who said it
Mm,
plainly that a champion is afraid of losing.
mm.
Everyone else is afraid of winning.
Huh.
So the athlete who has never given herself permission to fully compete, to want the goal that she actually wants and to pursue it without apology, is carrying a weight that has nothing to do with fitness. This is
Mm,
not about the podium. It's about every athlete at every level who's ever held herself back from competing as her full self. So you need
mm,
to learn to put that weight down before the race.
mhm. I hate to say it, but I also feel that that is a situation that happens, I would assert, more often with women
Yeah.
than men, and that makes me sad.
Yeah. No, none of my guys are ever like, I'm not going to give myself permission to compete. Most of my guys, I have to say, you do not have permission to compete. You have to follow your race plan. We don't. Yeah. So it is very gender specific.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, what are some other tools?
Stop pursuing better and start pursuing your best.
Ooh,
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah. So the athlete chasing improvement shows up to a race still in deficit mode, looking for what's wrong and what needs fixing or what fell short, while the
mm,
athlete who's pursuing her best shows up expecting the performance the training has earned. And again,
mm,
Selking calls it giving 100% of whatever you have. And Beecham calls it that liquidation sale.
mhm,
So they're all describing the same thing, full release of everything you actually have on this day in this race. And that is going to be different every single time you step up to the start line. And
mm,
some days it might be better than others, but you just got to work with what you have
mhm,
and, go for what is best enough on that day.
mhm, mhm. 'Kay, any others?
Last one, make the promise before race morning. So remember, we said a contest or a race is a promise. It's not a finish time. It's not a placement. It's a promise to yourself to give everything on that day that you have and to not quit when it gets
Mm,
difficult. And
mhm,
Seitz really makes this concrete for the athlete at the back of the pack, that the willingness is the starting point, not confidence. Like you don't need to be confident. You just need to be willing. So you
mm,
don't have to believe you will finish before you start. You just have to be willing to keep going while you're scared and to stay with it and to take the next step, even if the whole story and the ending isn't clear.
See,
So
I think
yeah.
that's that if you can see that as exciting and thrilling, because how often do we do that in life? Like really go balls out.
Yeah, that's the best part of sports. Like, no, you can't go balls out at Trader Joe's. You know what I mean? Like, you can't go in the grocery store and be like, today's the day I'm going to win this. Gotta get out of here in under 10 minutes. No, you can't do that. That's not an appropriate venue. So you show up to the race and it's just like your playground. You just go wild. Just, just express your best self that you don't get to express anywhere else, because we can't be competitive like that in friendships, even at work. It just doesn't work.
Oh, all right. So how about, what do you want to leave us with in closing?
So what struck me about, revisiting all 4 of these books is that the front of the pack athlete, the back of that pack athlete, they're more alike than any of them would ever admit. They're all afraid. They're all carrying something around that they haven't put down. They're all trying to figure out how to compete as their truest self. And Murphy of Inner Excellence said it best. Most people don't fear failure. They fear what failure means about them. And that is true no matter what your pace is. So the internal experience is nearly identical. And we need to remember that, because we all get like a little bit of imposter syndrome on the start line. But just remember, even the most confident and peering person inside, they're like that little kid hiding in the closet, like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do this.
Okay, Liz, you always end with one line from each book when you typically discuss just one book. So now share one line from each of the 4 books you beautifully synthesized.
4 lines. Okay. So winning the mental game, start there. It's the most complete mental performance framework available for an athlete who has never trained her mind as deliberately as she's trained her body. Okay. Built to finish. Read this if you have ever stood at a start line and let fear make the decision for you. Seitz will name the voice and she will show you it is lying. All right. Inner Excellence. Read this if you're competing at a high level and you have stopped enjoying it. So Murphy will actually help you provide a refresh of what the whole thing is actually for. And lastly, Elite Minds. Read this if you are ready to compete. Stan Beecham will make sure you arrive at the start line with the expectation to win and the mindset to get there.
All right. Well, this was fabulous. Thank you, Liz. And folks, thanks for listening. Miles of Books is a production of Another Mother Runner and Feisty Media. For more on Feisty and our other podcasts, events, workshops, and Feisty Fest, where Coach Liz and I will both be in mid-September, doing, among other things, recording an episode of Miles of Books, talking about a book we hope folks will read before the event. And we've been having lots of emails back and forth about what that book should be, to be decided soon. To find all that info, visit Feisty. Oh, yes, Liz, you have something to say?
I was going to say, let's just put out a call. If anyone out there has an idea of a nonfiction book that they think would be a great fit for Feisty Fest, can you email us? Let us know.
Yeah, I do believe the email would be yourfriends@livefeisty.com. Again, yourfriends@livefeisty.com. And to find all the details about all things Feisty, visit feisty.co. That's feisty.co.